Who's into holiday commercials right now? Yeah. Well, I have a few that come to the top of my mind. One is the Ever Us diamond sale with Kay Jewelry, you know. You shouldn't just get one diamond, get two of them. One for your true love and one for your best friend. And have you seen that Mercedes commercial one where the dad is driving the son to the movie theater through the snow so his teenage boy could go on a date? And they show up and nobody is there at the theater. And so he goes into the lobby and realizes he might have been stood up. They're driving a Mercedes to the movies, and then they go back outside and there's another Mercedes that drives up, and lo and behold, it's his date. They're there. It's great. So let's see, if you're counting, you need to buy not just one diamond, but two, maybe a Mercedes or two in there. Let's see, what else can we think about? Have you seen the Amazon Prime commercial? You know, where these two older guys, one's a Christian, one is a Muslim, and they meet for coffee every morning, and they're laughing. And lo and behold, they buy each other the same gift because they realize their knees are weak and they like to kneel to pray every day. And so the gifts show up. The Christian gives the gift to the Muslim, which is knee pads. Okay? Knee pads so he can kneel and pray every day. And the same goes for the Muslim to the Christian. Isn't that great? I mean, not even Scrooge himself could not like that commercial. And then maybe my favorite one lately, I heard this on Pandora this past week, and it's like it's Safe Lock or something like that. It's a home security system. And so the commercial goes, there's the ringing of Christmas bells, and the narrator comes on and says, you know who else loves this time of year? Burglars, okay? Burglars love this time of year. So let's see, order from Amazon Prime, get yourself a home security system, okay? Buy not just one diamond, but two, and maybe a couple of Mercedes. You're welcome. There you go. You got some ideas going now. Welcome to the second week in our Advent series. The headline of these weeks is leading up to Christmas is Advent Conspiracy. All of that being said, today's theme is spend less, okay? So how's that for reverse psychology? A brief backgrounder of Advent Conspiracy is that about 10 years ago now, this movement was started by three churches whose leadership believed that they were somehow missing the real meaning of Christmas, that the people they served were too, and that maybe the whole doggone culture was missing the real meaning of Christmas. And they said something like, we all want Christmas to be a lot of things. Okay, we want it to be full of joy, we want Christmas to be full of memories, and we want Christmas to be full of meaning. And we most of all want this to be about the man and the mission of Jesus. What we don't want it to be is full of stress, or after it's all said and done, to have a big fat debt hangover, or feeling like we just missed the moment. And so Advent Conspiracy was created to do what Jesus had a knack for always doing, turning things on their heads. Advent Conspiracy is about turning the culturally co-opted Christmas on its head in order to experience the power and the wonder of this season more fully, more joyfully, with these four movements: worship fully, spend less, give more, love all. And so today we take up the theme of spend less by gleaning the wisdom found in Matthew chapter 6 that James just read, right in the middle of Jesus' famous Sermon on the Mount. If you focus on nothing else, think about this money line from Jesus. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Now, maybe you've heard this line a time or two, and it's easy to skim the surface of it because it may be so familiar that we've lost the power of its impact. But think about what it doesn't say first. It doesn't say, where your heart is, that's where your treasure is. Jesus says, where your treasure is, there you will find what you really love. And so a starting point might be asking ourselves, what is it that I really, really treasure? And then what is the evidence that I actually treasure what I say I treasure? If I say my heart, for example, is with my family, but I'm storing up thinking about and worrying about and spending the bulk of my time figuring out how to make more money, I'm not really present to my family. It's a pretty good baseline for really understanding what it is I'm truly treasuring. So one way to look at this would be to say, if I spend less time worrying about money, for instance, maybe I could give more of myself to my relationship with my spouse or my partner or my children or my parents. And if I'm freed up from the obsession with useless worry, I can give more of my attention to deepening this relationship. I have a friend who says, be where you are now. You can be somewhere else later. Okay? Be present here and now and paying attention to the things that distract us from being present in the here and now. The focus of Advent Conspiracy is to literally go against the cultural flow and spend less money on Christmas presents during the Christmas season. And to remember that spending less on presents doesn't mean that we love our friends or our family any less, but it gives us a chance to get creative about what we can give them. And it might help to learn the difference between, let's say, just buying something and truly treasuring something. Buying something and truly treasuring something. For instance, what is it that we are thinking about when we spend our money? What is it that we want to buy exactly? Well, there are actual needs we have to fulfill. We need food. We need clothes for the kids. You got to pay the mortgage or the rent or the Excel bill. But sometimes when we spend our money, we're trying to buy something else. We're trying to buy a bit of happiness or fill our sense of emptiness. And maybe we try to fill a sense of self-worth buying something that's worth a lot. Got to have some retail therapy, you understand. And for some of us, it's a kind of serotonin overflow to buy stuff with no real need to have whatever it is we're spending our money on. It makes me think of the go-to prophet this time of year, Isaiah, whose words ring true about this idea of buying something versus treasuring something. Isaiah says, "Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy?" When we really think about it, it is fairly silly to spend more money on hideous ties or ugly Christmas sweaters, or just to spend our life savings over at Target or Macy's or Nordstrom on things that don't satisfy us for the people we're buying for. And so the Advent conspiracy to spend less at least includes the need to stop and look and listen and ask, what is it that I'm really trying to buy here? And what is it that I'm really treasuring? I know that I talk about my kids too much when I preach, but I can't help it because they are a source of the presence of God to me. And I was thinking this morning in Morning Blend as we were in our discussion of what is the difference between buying something and treasuring something. My daughter Addison is a budding writer, and it's hardly a week goes by where she doesn't give me a card that she writes to me at school or aftercare. And this past week, she gave me an early Merry Christmas card. And the one money line in that card that reminds me of what I treasure and what she treasures too is when she wrote, "If I had presents to open today, you, Daddy, would be the first present that I would open." Thank you very much. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. What do we treasure? And what is it that we are buying when we are spending our money? Strange as it might seem, says Professor of World Religions at SMU in Dallas, Ruben Habito, he says we can actually take the basic drives behind consumerism and turn them around to pursue the Buddha's path or the Jesus path. This is not only possible, it is crucially necessary to reduce the rising suffering in the world caused by our mindless consumer habits. As we replace the acquisitive mode with the contemplative mode, we will be in a win-win situation, overcoming our own suffering and dissatisfaction, and at the same time helping to reduce the cause of others' suffering. An act of shopping can be a manifestation of power, responsibility, discovery, self-expression, and other positive values. But at the same time, it can be a symptom of deeply rooted insecurity and an escape from responsibility or replacement for meaningful action. The human drive to want more and more things comes from a deeply felt sense of lack. That's why when you watch a Kay Jewelry commercial or a Mercedes commercial or an Amazon Prime commercial or a Safe Lock security commercial, there is a sense of what lack it creates in me because I need to have these things in order to be happy. Buddhist philosopher David Loy has called this lack a basic character of our human existence in this phenomenal world. Our activities in this world are motivated largely by the need to fill this inherent lack we feel at the heart of our being. And yet, the more we seek to fill this lack by following our craving to have more and more, in short, living in the acquisitive mode, the less we are truly satisfied, and thus continue in a state of unfulfillment and frustration. And so what action do we take now, having said all that? What can we do? Well, I'm glad you asked. I could read all your minds. You're asking, what do we do about this? Here's how you can participate in the Advent conspiracy of spending less. You can go to the Giving Tree. I know Ann already gave instructions this morning, but go to the Giving Tree in Fellowship Hall, and you can help support one of our mission partners this season. All you have to do is pull an ornament off of the tree to give a gift in honor of a loved one and participate in Advent conspiracy. There is a gift catalog there next to the Giving Tree with more information. By spending less, you can actually give more to these mission partners and make a powerful difference in the lives of people who need it most. And at the same time, it is a meaningful way to honor a friend or loved one during this season of giving. And so before you think Advent conspiracy is all going Scrooge on you, remember that this isn't about spending nothing. It is about spending less. Everyone likes gifts, don't you? Kids like gifts. But think about how often you spent money on Christmas presents for no other reason than obligation. How many times have you received a gift out of that same obligation? You may have a pile of ugly Christmas sweaters to prove it. Thanks, but no thanks, right? One family agreed to not exchange presents and instead gave that money to a charity or cause of their own choosing. And on Christmas Day, the time around the tree was spent listening to each person describe their gift and why that cause mattered to them. That's pretty cool. This week, our children's ministry coordinator shed some light in the children's ministry e-news, Lori Burke, about what spending less could mean for us as parents and family. Lori writes, I read recently that giving and receiving experiences rather than things is more impactful and lasting for both the giver and the receiver. Experiences can be anything from a regularly scheduled afternoon of play at a different park with your kids every month, to taking a train ride or going to a children's play, or maybe you set up a mom's day or a dad's date with each of your kids each month. You can make this a special time and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Remember, it is the memories that you are building and the opportunities that you are creating to really be present and have conversations with your children. Spending less may mean giving fewer actual presents on Christmas and more experiences spread throughout the year. Nice, Lori. Thank you. So we see there are benefits to spending less that go beyond our bank accounts. It has positive effects on mind and body and spirit. A reporter once asked America's first ever billionaire, John D. Rockefeller, how much money is enough? He replied, just a little bit more. Well, that applies to more than just money, because some of us need a little bit more of everything. More pleasure, more reassurance, more self-esteem, more recognition. But if we let go of the need to store up such things for ourselves, the wisdom of spending less applies to our whole lives across the board. What really touched me this week is what can we spend less on? Money for sure, buying things, but spending less time protecting my own interests. Spending less time on my phone. That'll be hard. Spending less energy needing more pleasure or more recognition or more assurance. Or someone said this morning, spending less time worrying about what other people think about me. What other people think about me is none of my business, someone once said. So take that. In the end, spending less equals giving more. There's more time, more freedom, more positive energy, more meaning, more compassion, more investment in what really matters. So let's embrace this Advent conspiracy to spend less in all sorts of ways and see what happens. And maybe we'll finally come to know the difference between buying something and truly treasuring something. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust consumes and where thieves, not even with safe lock, can break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be too. Amen.